The Ghost in the Gaps, an investigation into the uncanny valley and the architecture of unexplained unease. Prologue, the sinkhole uncertainty. You are reading this sentence. Your eyes move left to right. You hear the hum of your device, the distant murmur of traffic, or the silence of your room. Everything is normal. Everything is rational. But pause. Think of the last time you felt a chill for no reason. The last time you walked into a dark room and knew with absolute irrational conviction that you were not alone, even though you could see the empty corners. That feeling, that specific cold, creeping dissonance is a doorway. It is the threshold of the uncanny valley. We are going to walk into that valley together, not as tourists, but as forensic archaeologists of the psyche. I will act as your guide in four masks: the philosopher, who asks what is real; the psychologist, who maps the circuitry of fear; the psychoanalyst, who deciphers the buried language of the repressed; and the investigative journalist, who follows the evidence into the dark, refusing hallucination or easy comfort. By the end of this video, you will never trust a silent room or a smiling robot the same way again. What if I told you that the feeling of a ghost watching you is not a ghost at all, but a category error your brain commits every second to keep you sane? And what if that error is the very engine of your consciousness? Let us begin. The blueprint of the abyss, the journalist's definition. In 1970, a Japanese roboticist named Masahiro Mori published a slender paper in an obscure journal, Energy. He drew a graph. On the bottom axis, he placed a human likeness. On the vertical axis, familiarity. The line went up steadily as a robot became more human, from an industrial arm to a stuffed toy to a realistic prosthetic hand. Then, just before reaching total verisimilitude, the line plummeted into a steep ravine. It bottomed out at corpse or zombie. Then, it rose again at healthy living person. Mori called this ravine Bukimi no Tani, the uncanny valley. The investigator's cold hard fact: the uncanny valley is not a superstition. It is a neurocognitive event. Functional MRI studies, say the 2011 work of Ace Piner-Sajan at UCSD, show that when we look at an uncanny humanoid, a hyper-realistic android, a CGI character with dead eyes, the brain's ventral premotor cortex, the area for processing biological motion, essentially has a seizure. It receives conflicting signals. This is human. No, wait, it's not. It's an object. But it moved like a person. No, it didn't. The brain cannot resolve the equation. It flags the stimulus as a threat. But here is where the journalist sharpens her pencil. Mori never explained why the valley exists. He only described it. The world has spent 50 years guessing. Is it fear of death? The corpse looks. Is it fear of disease? The sick look. Is it a leftover module from our primate past, warning us against a conspecific who is not quite alive? Imagine you are a caveman. You see a figure standing at the edge of the firelight. It looks like your mate. Same height, same gait. But the eyes are glassy. The smile doesn't reach the cheeks. Do you run? Yes, you run. That is the uncanny valley. And it saved your life. Now, apply that to unexplained things. A ghost, a poltergeist, a shadow person, a sudden drop in temperature in a sealed room. These are not physical entities. There are gaps in causal explanation. And the brain treats a gap in causality exactly like a failed humanoid. It is a stimulus that should be one thing, a normal room, but is being reported as another, a haunted room. The valley is not about robots. It is about violated prediction. Question: when was the last time your own home, a space you know intimately, suddenly felt foreign to you for no objective reason? What was the specific sensory detail that broke the spell? A creak that didn't repeat? A reflection that went wrong? Write that moment down in your mind. We will need it for the autopsy. The psychology of prediction errors, the psychologist's lab. Let us get clinical. The human brain is not a rational computer. It is a prediction engine. Every second, your cortex generates a model of the next second. It guesses that the light will stay the same. The floor will be solid. The person turning the corner will have a face. When the prediction matches sensory input, you feel nothing, just the quiet hum of normality. When the prediction fails, you feel surprise. Most surprises are benign, a sudden noise, a typo. But surprise comes in degrees. The most violent degree is prediction error without resolution. The psychologist's deep dive. The uncanny valley is a threat ambiguity response. In 2016, researchers at the California Institute of Technology, Wang, Lilienfeld, Rochett, proposed the categorical perception model. They argue that humans have hardwired categories, human and non-human. These categories are protected by a firewall. A chimpanzee is non-human, but that's fine, it's safely behind the firewall. A cartoon is non-human safe. But a realistic android? It forces the brain to keep the firewall open. The brain cannot categorize it. An open category is a cognitive vulnerability. So the brain releases a burst of noradrenaline and cortisol, the anxiety neurotransmitters. It does not know if the thing is a friend, a predator, or a corpse. So it defaults to avoidance. Now, transpose this to unexplained phenomena. Case study, journalist hat on. In 2018, a woman in London reported seeing a doppelganger of her husband standing in the kitchen while her real husband was upstairs asleep. She described the figure as exactly him, but the eyes were black and the smile was too wide. She felt terror. She called the police. There was no intruder. Why did she feel terror? Because her brain predicted that the kitchen contains her husband. Category: safe human. Sensory input: kitchen contains a figure that matches the husband's morphology but violates facial action coding. Eyes don't reflect light. Smile uses the wrong muscle groups. That is a category error of the highest order. The brain's threat ambiguity system went into overdrive. She called it a ghost. The psychologist calls it a perceptual category violation, likely a hypnopompic hallucination occurring on waking, but the feeling of uncanny terror is identical to the feeling of a robot with dead eyes. Stop. Right now. Look at your own hand. Move your fingers. That smooth, fluid motion? That is a miracle of biological engineering. Now imagine seeing that same hand move, but the joints bend backward. Or the skin doesn't wrinkle. That is the valley. And unexplained phenomena are just the valley applied to time and space, a clock that ticks backward, a shadow that falls from no light source. Key psychological principle: the brain does not distinguish between a physical anomaly, a mismatched robot, and a causal anomaly, a light switching on without a switch. Both are prediction failures. Both trigger the uncanny feeling. Therefore, the uncanny valley is not about robots. It is about any stimulus that occupies two contradictory categories simultaneously. Question: have you ever experienced a coincidence so precise, a phone ringing with the exact thought you just had, a song lyric answering a question you asked silently, that it felt wrong rather than wonderful? That wrongness is your brain trying to force a causal category, random chance, and a meaningful category, telepathy, into the same moment. Did you resolve it, or did you let the valley swallow you? The psychoanalysis of the repressed return, the analyst's couch. Now we go deeper. Beneath the cognitive circuitry, beneath the prediction errors, into the basement of the psyche. Sigmund Freud, flawed, brilliant, sometimes wrong, but never shallow, wrote a terrifying essay in 1919 called The Uncanny, Das Unheimliche. He noted that the German word unheimlich is the opposite of Heimlich, homely, familiar, belonging to the house. But he made a linguistic discovery. Heimlich also means secret, concealed, dangerous. The two opposites collapse into each other. Freud's thesis, restated for our inquiry: the uncanny is not something new or external. It is something old and familiar that has been repressed and then returns. What has humanity repressed? Two things. First, infantile complexes, the wish for the dead to be alive, the fear of being buried alive, the terror of the evil eye. Second, primitive beliefs that we have supposedly outgrown, animism, magic, the omnipotence of thoughts, the return of the dead. When you feel the uncanny valley looking at a robot, you are not afraid of the machine. You are afraid of the return of the repressed belief that a doll can have a soul. When you feel a ghost in a hallway, you are not afraid of a specter. You are afraid of the return of the childhood certainty that the dead are still watching. The psychoanalyst's masterstroke. The uncanny valley is the ego's failure to maintain the reality principle. For the healthy adult, reality is governed by causality, physics, and death, irreversible. But deep in the id, the old laws still hold. The dead walk, thoughts cause events, doubles are soul thieves. When an external event, a robot that looks too human, a photo that changes overnight, a sound with no source matches the repressed content, the ego is flooded. It cannot say, that's just a machine. It feels, that's a dead thing pretending to be alive. This is why unexplained phenomena always cluster around liminal spaces. Doorways, mirrors, midnight, the threshold between days, sleep, the threshold between consciousness and unconsciousness. Liminal spaces are the geography of the repressed. They are where the categorical firewall is thinnest. You have never seen a ghost, but you have had the dream where you are in your childhood home, and a door that was always locked is now open, and behind it is a room that never existed. That dream is not a dream. That is your repressed animism breathing. The uncanny valley is the sound of that breath. Clinical note. The psychoanalyst Jacques Lacan would add that the uncanny is the emergence of the real, that which resists symbolization. We have symbols for alive and dead. The undead have no symbol. So when you encounter the undead, in fiction, in feeling, you encounter the real as a trauma. The valley is the wound in the symbolic order. Question. Think of a superstition you hold but do not believe. For example, I don't believe in curses, but I won't walk under a ladder. Or, I know the Ouija board is cardboard, but I won't touch it. That but is the return of the repressed. What is the most childish irrational belief that still has power over you, and when did it last cause a shiver? The investigation case files from The Edge, journalist's notebook. Enough theory. Let us investigate. As a journalist, I follow the evidence. I do not claim ghosts exist. I claim that the feeling of ghosts exists, and that feeling is data. Here are 3 case files, real, documented, unexplained in their phenomenology, if not in their cause. Case file number 1. The Phantom Touch, Stockholm, 2017. A 34-year-old nurse, Anna, reported waking to a sensation of a cold hand pressing on her sternum. She could not move. She saw a figure sitting on her chest, a classic night haggard sleep paralysis hallucination. But the uncanny detail. She later found 3 small bruises in the shape of fingertips on her chest. No medical explanation. Sleep paralysis does not cause bruises. She had not touched herself. The psychologist says, automatic behavior during REM intrusion. The psychoanalyst says, the repressed incubus returns. The journalist says, we have a physical trace with no causal chain. That is a gap, and gaps are the valley. Case file number 2. The repeating phantom, the Hat Man phenomenon. Across thousands of reports from unrelated subjects, see the 2015 study by Milad et al., Journal of Anomalous Experience. A specific figure appears during sleep paralysis. A tall man in a wide-brimmed hat, often with glowing red eyes. The consistency is extraordinary. The neurologist says it is a culturally transmitted schema, the shadow figure archetype. The psychoanalyst points to Jung's collective unconscious. The investigator notes, the Hat Man is uncanny because he is both specific, hat, silhouette, and generic, no face, no voice. He occupies the valley between a person and a shadow. Case file number 3. The electronic voice phenomenon, EVP, a control test. In 2019, a team at the University of Northampton placed a digital recorder in a white noise room. No external sound sources. They asked volunteers to listen to the playback. 22% reported hearing whispered words or murmurs. Spectral analysis showed random noise. But the uncanny feeling persisted. Why? Because the human auditory cortex is a pattern completion machine. It wants to find phonemes. When it finds a near miss, a noise that is almost hello but not quite, the valley opens. The brain cannot decide. Is that a voice, human, or static, non-human? The feeling is in the valley. Listen, right now, to the background hum of your environment. Do you hear a fan? A fridge? Now imagine that hum suddenly forming a word. Not a clear word. A suggestion of a word. The hair on your neck would rise. That is not magic. That is your brain punishing you for its own inability to categorize the sound. The investigator's conclusion. Unexplained phenomena are real as experiences. The causes may be prosaic, sleep paralysis, apophenia, infrasound, carbon monoxide poisoning, pareidolia. But the uncanny feeling is the constant. It is the brain's alarm bell for uncategorizable ambiguity. And that alarm bell is the most honest thing about us. It says, we do not know. And we were never built to not know. Question. Have you ever recorded audio in a quiet room and listened back, hearing something that was not there when you recorded? Did you immediately assume a technical explanation, feedback, crosstalk, or did you, for just a second, entertain a ghost? That second, that hesitation is the valley. What did you do with it? The philosophy of the gap, the philosopher's abyss. We arrive now at the precipice. The philosopher does not ask what causes the uncanny valley. The philosopher asks, why do we have a valley at all? What does its existence say about the structure of human reason? The argument. Immanuel Kant argued that the human understanding operates through categories 12 fundamental concepts, causality, unity, plurality, existence, etc., that organize raw sensory data into experience. Without categories, the world is a blooming, buzzing confusion. With categories, we have science, ethics, and a stable self. The uncanny valley is the failure of the categorical apparatus. It is a glitch in the Kantian machine. When you see a robot that is 98% human, your category of human and your category of object both fire simultaneously. Kant would say this is impossible, a contradiction in the transcendental unity of apperception. But it happens. Therefore, the valley proves that the categorical apparatus is not a perfect logical system. It is a biological heuristic, and heuristics have blind spots. The philosopher's terror. The blind spot is the real. The philosopher Eugene Thacker calls this horror of philosophy, the realization that the world exceeds our categories not just in magnitude, but in kind. The uncanny valley is not a bug. It is a feature that reveals the lie of rational closure. We think we live in a fully disenchanted scientific world, but every time a shadow moves wrong, the enchantment returns not as magic, but as malign ambiguity. You believe in science. So do I. But science has no category for a room that is 6 degrees colder than the adjacent room with no draft, no AC, no open window. Science says, measure again. But the feeling, the knowing that something is off, that is the valley. And the valley does not care about your thermometers. The ultimate philosophical provocation. What if the uncanny valley is not a glitch in our perception of the world, but a glitch in the world itself? What if reality occasionally fails to be coherent? This is the position of speculative realism. Quentin Milasou. The world is not made for our categories. It is hyper-chaotic. Most of the time, it pretends to obey laws. But in the gaps, in the uncanny moments, the pretense drops. You see the abyss. The valley is the abyss looking back. Question. If you had to bet your life on it, would you say that the laws of physics will be exactly the same tomorrow as they are today? Most would say yes. But the most is not all. There is a tiny crack of doubt. That crack is the philosophical uncanny. How large is your crack? Synthesis. The valley is portal. We have traveled. We have measured. We have dug. The journalist says, the uncanny valley is a measurable neurocognitive response to prediction error. Unexplained phenomena are real experiences that correlate with specific conditions: low light, sleep transitions, isolation, infrasound. No ghosts have been proven. But the feeling of ghosts has been proven beyond doubt. The psychologist says, it is a threat ambiguity response. The brain flags anything that straddles categories as a predator. That is why a zombie is scarier than a lion. A lion is a clear category, dangerous animal. A zombie is a category violation, dead alive. Unexplained feelings are the same violation applied to causality. The psychoanalyst says, it is the return of the repressed. The valley is where our primitive animistic infantile self seeps through the floorboards of rationality. We are not afraid of the dark. We are afraid of what we know still lives in the dark, our own buried omniscience. The philosopher says, it is the wound of the real. The valley is proof that our categories are insufficient. The unexplained is not a problem to be solved. It is a condition to be endured. The final master's thesis. The uncanny valley and the feeling of unexplained phenomena are the same mechanism operating at different levels of abstraction. One level is physical morphology, robots, dolls, corpses. The other level is causal morphology, events without causes, patterns without designers, presences without bodies. Both are ontological category violations. Both trigger the same cold sweat. Both reveal that the human mind is a fragile bridge over a chasm of chaos. You are now at the end of this essay. Look away from the screen. Look at the corner of the room you are in. Is it empty? Are you sure? That question, are you sure, is not paranoia. It is intelligence. Because the valley is always there, right at the edge of the firelight. Call to action. I am not asking you to believe in ghosts. I am asking you to believe in your own discomfort. For too long, the rationalist has told you to suppress the uncanny feeling. It's just the wind. It's just your imagination. That is a lie. The uncanny feeling is data. It is the most ancient alarm system in your nervous system. It has kept you alive for 300,000 years. Your action is this. The next time you feel the valley, the cold spot, the misstep of a reflection, the robot that smiled too long, do not run. Do not dismiss. Stop, attend, investigate, pull out your phone, record the temperature, note the time, write down the feeling, become the investigator of your own experience. Why? Because the war for the 21st century is not a war of weapons. It is a war of category integrity. AI will generate faces that are not quite human. Deepfakes will produce voices that are almost right. Algorithmic prediction will create events that seem caused but are random. The uncanny valley will no longer be a rare glitch. It will be the default state of media. If you do not learn to sit with the uncanny feeling, to analyze it without panic or denial, you will be manipulated. You will fall for the almost human politician, the almost true news, the almost real memory. The valley will become your prison. So, shake hands with your unease. Let it teach you. The valley is not your enemy. It is your sensor. And a sensor that is never examined is worse than broken. It is invisible. Your call. Tonight, before you sleep, spend 60 seconds in the dark. No phone. No light. Just you and the silence. Feel the uncanny. Do not name it. Do not explain it. Just feel it. That feeling is the edge of your mind. And on that edge, you will find not ghosts, but yourself, the self that existed before categories, before language, before the lie that the world is fully known. That self is not afraid. That self is the valley. Food for thought. The master's final riddle. You asked, what is the uncanny valley when people have feelings about unexplained things? Here is the answer, forged from 4 disciplines and 1 investigation. The uncanny valley is the sound of your brain trying to force the infinite, chaotic, hyper-chaotic real into the finite, orderly, human-shaped box of things that make sense. The feelings about unexplained things are the screams of the real as it is crushed by the box. But the real does not die. It leaks. It leaks as a cold draft. A mirrored reflection that blinks a millisecond too late. A memory that belongs to someone else. A robot's eye that follows you when the head does not move. The valley is not a flaw in perception. It is a flaw in reality's pretense of order. And the most terrifying food for thought is this. What if the pretense is wearing thin? What if, as we build more and more human things, AI, androids, simulated worlds, we are not creating new valleys, but exhausting the capacity of the real to hide? What if one day, the valley does not close and we are left standing at the bottom, looking up at a world that has finally admitted it does not understand itself? Then the valley will not be a place we visit. It will be the place we live. Final question, dear reader, and this is the only one that matters now. Are you still sure that the room you are in has only the people you know, the objects you recognize, and the laws you trust? Or have you, in the last of this video, begun to suspect that the unexplained is not an exception, but the rule that forgot to announce itself? The investigation is closed. Your unease is now open.
Please tell me what you think and how you feel about this issue. Analyze it, brainstorm it, debate it, and if you like it, please share it. Thank you for watching. I truly and highly appreciate you, and God bless you.